Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Child Life 101. I am Katie Taylor. I am a certified child life specialist. And in these series, we go through different parts of what a child life specialist does and give you, the parents and professionals who are with kids every single day, some of the tips and insights in how we do what we do. Our ultimate goal is for all families to feel so empowered when they walk into medical experiences that it feels seamless, that we can remove some of the stressors and give you, the family, and the people who work with kids all of the information necessary so that you can have better outcomes, better experiences, and stay out of the hospital and the doctor's office as much as possible because you feel so informed and so equipped. Today, we will be talking all about how to prepare kids for procedures. And this is one of my most favorite parts of being a child life specialist, and I think why I enjoyed working in the outpatient clinical setting so much. So my experience is that I worked all over the hospital, from critical care to adolescent medicine, hematology, oncology, but I spent a bulk of my career in pre-op. And when you work in pre-op, you are basically preparing kids for upcoming surgeries over and over and over again. So you get really good at not only preparing kids for what to expect, but preparing their families for what to expect and getting to see kind of the fruits of your labor. And my labor in working with families immediately come into action. And what I mean by that is within 20 minutes, we can prepare a family for what is about to happen and have the child asleep back in the operating room. Now, that's a really fast-paced kind of quick scenario, but it does happen. Also, in emergency rooms, we are preparing kids for a multitude of procedures, and these are happening relatively quickly. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that child life specialists prepare families for procedures. There are also times where we can prepare you months in advance for an upcoming surgery or for a procedure that's going to happen in a week's time. So it's not always that it has to happen right away, but today we'll go over some of the general tenets at ages and stages and what to include in preparation. Let's get started. So we're going to begin just in chronological age. I do want to say very quickly that not all children will fall exactly into all of the things that I'm describing when we're talking about a child's age. There is a spectrum of development, and not all kids are going to fall exactly where we talk about. So that's why it's important for you to listen to this entire episode so that you can take some of the tips that we talk about with maybe a younger age, but it may apply to an older child just based on so many different factors: society, cultural influences, developmental milestones. So these are just going to be general pieces of information that we know from both theory and working practice in the hospital. So when we start with the youngest chronological age, we will begin right with the infant age group. And for infants, what we're going to talk about are some of the stressors that we know are happening in their life when it comes to a hospital or medical environment, and what we can do to counteract those stressors so that when you are preparing yourself and your family and your infant for an upcoming procedure, that you know what to look out for. And so you may be saying, Katie, you are crazy. How is it possible that an infant could be scared of an upcoming procedure when they don't even know what it means? And look, I hear you on that. They don't have a lot of the language and communication skills developed to have a conversation, but they absolutely can pick up on stressors that are around them. So we're going to talk about the 4 main stressors of infants in a medical environment that we look out for as child life specialists. The first one is going to be parent anxiety. And we know if the parent is anxious, then the infant can pick up on that. So what I would tell you is first and foremost for you, the parent, or when you are preparing a parent, to make sure that they are okay, that they have processed what is about to happen and they have all of the information necessary. It doesn't mean that we take away stress, right? Because sometimes that's just not possible. But it is possible for us to provide them with informed decisions, informed ideas, take away some of the unknown things for parents so that their stress level can go down. We can also let them know that they have a friend or they have a support network within the hospital, and that this is a human-to-human connection, and so parents don't feel alone as they are preparing to go through this experience with their infant. The second thing that will stress an infant out in the medical environment is harsh environment. So think about literally that the lights are bright, the air is cold, they are meeting unknown people. They can be removed from their parents' arms, which is where they feel most comfortable. So as much as possible, when an infant is being prepared for a procedure, we want to keep that baby in their loving caregiver's arms or their parents' arms, whoever may be there. Just loved and supported and really kind of held in this containment, loving, compassionate hold. Another stressor for infants is pain, right? So we can't talk about procedures without talking about pain. So what we know about infants is that when we counteract their pain with something that helps them feel good or feel contained or feel safe, that can help them. So in order to prepare an infant for this upcoming procedure, we want to make sure we have what is necessary. And that is maybe a swaddle, something for them to suck, whether it be a pacifier, a breast, a finger, or whatever is necessary so that they can have some of those good feelings coming into their body as they are experiencing pain. And last but not least, when we put that all together, especially with the separation from parents in that unknown environment and parental anxiety, those are really the things we want to keep families feeling supported with. And if you are a parent who's listening to this, that you process your own emotions and that you are actively participating as much as possible to love on your infant. Okay, now we are going to go over to the toddler age group, which is really fun. And they are developing typically more language skills, more communication skills. They are interacting with the world. They have more control over things. They are learning new skills. They grow so much, not only physically, but also emotionally and linguistically and developmentally. And so we do have to prepare them in a different way. Children as young as 9 months can benefit from preparation, and I saw this first and foremost when I was working in pre-op. And for a young child as young as 9 months, we could hand them an anesthesia mask, practice to put it on their nose, and they would learn where it goes right away. And so that when we went into the operating room, sometimes we would have that toddler grab the mask and put it on them because they had practiced so much. So for this age group, modeling in a playful way with hands-on equipment as much as possible is really beneficial. I'm not going to expect that you have an anesthesia mask at home or any relevant medical materials in order to prepare your child. So that just means we have to get creative. My daughter had an EEG when she was about 18 months old, as well as an MRI with anesthesia. But to prepare her for the EEG, we did a little play. And of course, I didn't have the leads that stick to your head in order to prepare her, but I did have some of the things that we could pretend. So we got ribbon and string, like from what you wrap gifts with, and pieces of Scotch tape, and we put them onto her baby doll's head. And so we just practiced and we played, and sometimes she put the tape on the baby doll's head, and sometimes she didn't want to play with the tape at all. The point is for her to master what an EEG is and intellectualize it. But the point is for her to get familiar with some of the sequence of events that is going to happen. Some of the other things we did was just prompting some coping skills. So when we put the EEG on the baby doll's head, we would have the baby doll take deep breaths. I would practice taking deep breaths. My daughter would practice. And so those are just some of the ways that you can really integrate play and some of the language that they may hear. So we'll say things like, here is your EEG. Now it's time to put the tape on your head. And so when we were going into the scenario, she was familiar with some of the language. We can seamlessly in here move into the preschool age group because this play, as you'll see, is so essential even as children grow older. So Again, the idea for play is that the child has to have buy-in and want to participate in order for it to be play. So it's not a teaching session, it is truly play. So as we move in to the older preschool group, one of the things we want to be aware of is that they live in this world of magical thinking. And with that comes princesses and swords and dinosaurs and all of those things. But because of that wonderful imagination that they are creating, they tend to sometimes integrate that into their reality. And so you may hear your child pretend play. And when it comes to medical experiences, we just want to make sure that they have accurate information, right? One of the things we can do with these preschoolers who use their beautiful imagination is really use that to our advantage when we are preparing them for something. I learned from an amazing mentor of mine named Holly, who worked in an oncology unit. And she would describe to a preschooler what chemotherapy was by using the analogy of superheroes and bad guys. And the cancer cells were the bad guys, and the superheroes was the chemotherapy. And what she did is she took that play and a language that the preschooler was able to understand and really integrate that so that they were prepared for what was going to happen. You'll also find with the toddler and preschool and school age group and older that offering choices whenever possible is essential, even in the preparation. So not just when the painful thing happens, but ahead of time. What do you want to play with first? Do you want to play with this doctor toy, or do you want to play with this? Or should we use your stuffed animal to play, or should we make something with Play-Doh? And so that way you're getting their buy-in in order to play, and they have some choice and autonomy over how the play unfolds and how the preparation unfolds. One of the things you do want to pay attention to is as we use this imaginary language, especially when we're preparing preschoolers, we also want to use the actual words and terms that they're going to hear, especially when it comes to body parts, especially when it comes to using something like a pulse ox. We can describe it as it looks like a Band-Aid with a red flashlight, but you will also hear the nurse say pulse ox. And the reason that that's important is so that when the child hears that word for the first time, they're not in a threatening environment of the hospital. They've heard the word before, or they're not in the doctor's office saying, "What's a pulse ox?" You can just simply remind them that you had talked about that and it looks like a Band-Aid with a red light. And so you kind of pull those two worlds together, the actual term and how you have played, pretend, or prepared them for what to expect. Moving after preschool, we will enter the fun school age years. And especially in those early school year ages, kids are going to really benefit from hands-on preparation. Like we talked about, they may be able to remember more sequence of events, so they can recall previous scenarios. With this age group, I really like to call in that they already have some mastery over the experience, even though they've never done it before. So I'll say things like, "Do you know how to breathe? You know how to breathe, right? Oh, that's perfect. That's one of the things we're going to have to do during this experience." Or, "Do you have a bed at your house? Well, we have a bed that we're going to go lay down on. Do you know how to lay down?" And so these are simple things, but also the child can then think, "Oh, I totally already know how to do half of what I'm going to be expected to do." You also want them to have buy-in and choice about what they can do to be prepared for it. So do they like to know a lot of information? Do they like to know just a little bit of information or a little bit at a time? And they may not know the answer to the question, but the point is that you are right there with them, helping them to have some autonomy over what they want to learn about and when. You will find very fast that kids who are not ready to learn or process will perhaps show you with their body language, with their choice of words, that they don't want to participate. And usually I just validate that and say, "I can see you do not want to talk about that right now, but there are just 2 things that I need you to know before we get there. Or sometimes I can just say, we can talk about this later. I just want you to know if questions come up for you, you can come and ask me about them. Okay, so we're going through this pretty fast, but these are just kind of some brief overviews for you to consider. I'd also love for you to think about that kind of preteen and adolescent. And these are incredibly intellectual humans who have so much creativity and so much autonomy over what they do, what they can control. And privacy is just so essential to this age group. So usually when going into a preparation with this age group, I want their buy-in, not only that they're ready and willing to participate and learn, but that they have a basic understanding of why it's important for them. This age group, I also say a lot of things like, I've been with other teenagers who have gone through this before, or I myself have gone through it before, because that peer validation is just so important into what they're experiencing. So truly pull on previous experiences or other people in the world who have gone through something similar. And even if you don't know anyone, why don't you try to find out together? It is so simple to perhaps find a video online of maybe a teen who has gone through something before. I know we have podcast episodes on Child Life on Call where we have young adults who were previously teens and had medical experiences, and they do an amazing job at explaining what it's like. And for that teen group, it's not necessarily that they have listened to someone who's gone through the exact scenario, but they have listened to or can learn from another teen who's gone through something similar. This age group too, it is not the time, in my opinion, for teenagers to remove their constant source of safety, whatever that piece of safety may be. It may be their cell phone. It may be their parent. It may be their dog. And while you can't bring your dog into the doctor's office, you can certainly bring a picture of your dog. You can certainly keep a comfort item with them. If they want their mom or dad to be present, you can offer that, or you can offer for them to step out. Often teens like to have privacy as much as possible, so we'll make sure that they're covered up in the areas that they want to be covered up in. But just all of those thoughts that teens can have that relate to their privacy and their independence are essential. So I feel like we have just flown through each and every age group, but hopefully understanding some of the stressors and considerations at each age will help you feel more proficient as you start to provide a really thoughtful, concise, honest preparation for the children in your life. All right, I am so excited to be able to see you here next week when we continue our Child Life 101 series, and hope you have found this to be helpful. Talk to you soon.